I guess what I really would like for you to help expound to me is where you draw the line when it comes to what you described as too much government. You said there's too much government in selecting one's toaster, I guess, or one's refrigerator, apparently, or one's washer and dryer. You went through this litany of examples. Where do you draw the line?
Where do I draw a line on what?
Yeah, how do you see, you take issue with the federal government's role, in this case, with respect to the bill that you all have proposed. Where do you draw the line as to how much government is too much government?
Well, there's 17 enumerated powers in the United States Constitution, and I think government has well exceeded that. I think a return to a smaller, limited federal government is better.
Okay.
That's how our founders envisioned this.
That's helpful. That's what I was hoping you would say. You believe there's too much government in appliances or the selection thereof. You think there's too much government in baseball?
I don't think government has a role in baseball.
You don't think government has a role in baseball? That's fascinating. Are you familiar with the Competition in Professional Baseball Act?
Well, there's some antitrust laws.
No, I didn't ask you that. I asked if you're familiar with that bill. I mean, I hope you'd be familiar with it because it's your bill.
I am, yeah.
Right?
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And in Congress, consistency is often held as a virtue. Yet some Republicans seem to have missed the memo.
You authored the Competition in Professional Baseball Act. That bill does what? It amends the Clayton Act to ultimately eliminate one of the antitrust exemptions that exists for professional baseball. You're familiar with the Clayton Act, yes?
I am.
And the Clayton Act is designed to do what? Protect consumers, is that right? Is the Clayton Act part of the 17 enumerated powers of the federal government under the Constitution as you see it, that you hold so true and fast to?
Probably.
Probably? Okay, so looks like we found an exception. Maybe we can go down the list of some others. You see my point, Mr. Duncan.
I said it was too much government.
Oh, yeah, I understand, but apparently too much government in the case of the bill that you proposed, but not too much government in the case of professional baseball.
In a recent showdown captured by TYT Investigates, Neguse effortlessly dismantled Duncan's arguments, leaving his head spinning.
Mr. Duncan, I don't want to belabor the point here, but I listened with great interest to your primer on the constitutional order of our country and the principles of limited government as you see it, and your perceptions about supposed overreach by the federal government in this case that apparently was the impetus for the Hands Off Our Home Appliances Act. I think House Republicans at least were wise enough to keep the rest of their bills, the Refrigerator Freedom Act and the like, from the floor this week.
While the nation grapples with pressing issues from economic recovery to health care reform, our esteemed representatives have deemed it fit to devote their time and resources to the most pressing matters of our time: refrigerators and clothing dryers. Yes, you heard it right, folks. The Refrigerator Freedom Act, the Clothes Dryer Reliability Act, the Liberty and Laundry Act, and the Hands Off Our Home Appliances Act take center stage, as if the fate of the republic hangs in the balance of our household appliances.
Some of the words you used, just in response to my colleague from New York's questions, were too much government, freedom to choose, which of course is, ironic given the position of House Republicans in undermining the right, the freedom to make one's own health reproductive decisions. You introduced a bill in the last Congress to give the FTC more powers so that it could regulate professional baseball. So you could imagine, I think, my surprise, and I suspect for those who are watching, their surprise to hear you defend liberty for refrigerators, but then demand that the federal government intervene in the regulation of professional baseball. I find that a bit disconnected from the philosophy that you've articulated.
Duncan, like many of his colleagues, has a knack for shifting positions depending on the prevailing winds of public opinion. But it's his encounters with Representative Joe Neguse of Colorado that have showcased the fragility of his arguments. Republicans like him have perfected the art of championing fiscal responsibility until it threatens their pet projects or until scandal rocks their own ranks, like when the stripper gets pregnant. The story of Republicans like Duncan is not just one of political blunders, but of a deeper hypocrisy that pervades the party. It's a tale of pandering to special interests, of abandoning principles in pursuit of power. Yet amidst the sea of flip-floppers, there are those like Neguse who stand firm in their convictions, who refuse to waver in the face of political pressure, and who hold their counterparts to account with unwavering resolve. As Representative Joe Neguse of Colorado maneuvers through the maze of bureaucracy, his Republican counterparts stumble and bumble, armed with little more than empty rhetoric and blind allegiance to a formerly reality star turned politician.
The Clayton Act, which as you know is over 100 years old, does not include baseball, and the courts, going back a generation, have ruled that professional baseball is not subject to the antitrust laws of the United States of America. You, sir, have introduced a bill to mandate that professional baseball be subject to the antitrust laws of the United States and to give the Federal Trade Commission the powers to regulate it thereof. You shouldn't be embarrassed by it. That's your position.
Because there were antitrust violations. And so the antitrust laws, I didn't write. The
I hear you.
antitrust laws were on the books.
And apparently you believe
And
that
baseball was
it's in
given
the
an exemption.
interest of the American public for the federal government to have a role to protecting consumers, which you've spent the better part of the last half hour attacking that very
antitrust
view.
laws fall
So-
under commerce, which the federal government enumerated powers to
Sure,
regulate.
sure. Well, you have a broader view of the Commerce Clause than certainly than apparently the framers that you were describing previously. But I don't. To the extent that you care to jump in, Ranking Member Pallone, about the regulation of professional baseball, you're welcome to.
It's as if Neguse has strapped Duncan to the spanking machine, relentlessly delivering blow after blow with surgical precision. The saga surrounding Major League Baseball's decision to relocate the All-Star Game from Georgia years back ignited a firestorm debate from Republicans. This was the argument that Neguse used to dismantle Duncan's stance. At the center of this controversy is a bill filed by Congressman Jeff Duncan of South Carolina, aimed at removing Major League Baseball's long-standing antitrust exemption. Even Marge the Trainwreck Green lambasted Major League Baseball at the time for giving in to what she sees as misguided woke agenda, equating the league's actions with assault on American democracy. However, it's Representative Joe Neguse of Colorado who exposes the hypocrisy of his Republican counterparts, pointing out their selective adherence to the principles of limited government and individual freedom. He highlights how Duncan and his brood champion small government when it suits their political agenda, yet readily endorse government intervention when it aligns with their interests. Neguse's assessment underscores the underlying truth. This isn't about principles or ideology. It's about power and partisanship. In the end, the debate over Major League Baseball's antitrust exemption serves as a representation of a broader political landscape, where truth and integrity are often sacrificed at the GOP altar of partisan expediency. And as long as MAGA politicians prioritize ideology over reality, the true losers will always be the American people. Kudos to Colorado's Joe Neguse for holding the GOP morons' feet to the fire. We need more of this, and that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.